Long before his name was carved into calendars, and history itself was divided around his life, the world stood heavy under its own weight. Empires rose on violence and ruled through fear. Power belonged to the ruthless, and survival demanded silence from the weak. The poor were unseen, the sick were untouchable, and mercy was treated as a flaw. Hope existed, but only as a distant memory carried in ancient prophecies and fading prayers into this world, not through thunder or conquest, but through quiet and obscurity. A child was born. The place was Bethlehem, a small and unremarkable town, overshadowed by greater cities and forgotten by rulers. There were no banners raised, no armies assembled, no royal procession. The child entered the world in a stable meant for animals, laid not in silk but in straw. His mother was young, his father uncertain, and their surroundings humble to the point of insignificance. Yet unseen by human eyes, the moment carried the weight of eternity. This birth did not announce power as the world understood it. It introduced something unfamiliar, something unsettling. A king without a crown, strength hidden inside fragility, divinity wrapped in vulnerability. From the beginning, the life of Jesus unfolded in contradiction to every expectation humanity had ever placed on greatness. The threat came quickly. Fear always recognizes what it cannot control. A ruler obsessed with preserving his authority sensed danger in the rumor of a child destined to be king. Violence followed, indiscriminate and cruel, forcing the child and his family to flee into foreign lands. Before his first memories could form, he became a refugee, carried through uncertainty and danger, preserved not by power, but by providence. When the danger passed, the family returned and settled in Nazareth, a place with no reputation and little significance. There, the child grew. Years passed quietly. He learned to walk dusty roads, to work with his hands, to feel hunger and fatigue. He lived among ordinary people, shared their labor, their struggles, and their limitations. No miracles marked his childhood. No crowds followed him. The extraordinary remained hidden beneath the ordinary. Time moved forward without announcement. Decades slipped by, unnoticed by history. The boy became a man, shaped by simplicity and discipline, by observation and patience. When the moment finally arrived, it came without spectacle. The world he stepped into was restless. The people were burdened by occupation and taxation, crushed by laws enforced without compassion. Religion had become rigid, heavy with rules, but empty of mercy. Into this tension, Jesus emerged, not from palaces or temples, but from the margins. His presence altered rooms without effort. He walked from village to village, and people gathered without being summoned. There was no coercion in his movement, no force behind his authority. It existed naturally, as though truth itself walked beside him. The broken found themselves drawn toward him. The rejected felt seen. Those burdened by guilt discovered the possibility of release. Healing followed him, but not a spectacle. Blind eyes opened. Diseased bodies were restored. Lives long considered worthless were returned dignity. Yet the most unsettling changes occurred within hearts. Pride dissolved. Shame loosened its grip. Love replaced fear. What unsettled the powerful was not what he did, but how he did it. He crossed boundaries without hesitation. He touched those considered untouchable. He welcomed those cast aside. He dismantled social hierarchies, not by rebellion, but by redefining worth itself. The more the crowds grew, the more resistance hardened. Religious leaders saw their authority challenged. Systems built on control trembled. Jesus exposed the emptiness of outward righteousness, detached from compassion. His life revealed that devotion without love was hollow, and obedience without mercy was meaningless. He gathered followers, not from elites or scholars, but from the working class. Fishermen, laborers, and men accustomed to obscurity found themselves chosen. They followed without fully understanding, drawn not by promises of power but by the gravity of his presence. They witnessed miracles and heard truths that reshaped their understanding of God, humanity, and themselves. As his influence expanded, tension thickened. Every step forward brought him closer to confrontation. The same crowds that admired him became unpredictable, easily swayed by fear and disappointment when expectations nations were unmet. The desire for liberation clashed with the reality of transformation that required inner surrender rather than external revolution. Betrayal emerged not from strangers, but from within his closest circle. Familiarity bred disillusionment. Greed found its opportunity. What could not be controlled was sold for silver, exchanged in secrecy and regret. The arrest came quietly, under darkness. There was no resistance from him, no attempt to escape. The power to stop it existed, yet remained unused. What followed was not justice, but procedure twisted by fear. Accusations replaced truth. Mockery replaced fairness. Authorities surrendered its responsibility to protect innocence. Violence followed, brutal and dehumanizing. The body that had healed others was torn and humiliated. Strength was mistaken for weakness because it refused retaliation. A crown of thorns replaced royal authority. The instrument of execution became the throne. The walk to the place of death unfolded slowly, each step heavy with pain and meaning. The crowd watched, some with satisfaction, others with sorrow, many with indifference. The world treated the moment as spectacle, unaware it was witnessing a turning point beyond comprehension. On the cross, suffering reached its fullness. The weight was not only physical, but cosmic. Betrayal, injustice, cruelty, and hatred converged in one place. Yet even there, violence did not produce vengeance. Love remained unbroken. Mercy endured without condition. When life finally left his body, the earth responded. Darkness failed. Structures meant to separate humanity from God were torn apart. What was once distant became accessible. What was once impossible became offered freely. The body was placed in a tomb, sealed behind stone and silence. Hope appeared extinguished. The followers scattered, burdened by fear and grief. History seemed to resume its old rhythm, unchanged and unchallenged. Then the silence broke. The tomb was found empty. Death failed to hold what it had claimed. The impossible became reality. Jesus returned, not as a ghost, not as a memory, but alive. The wounds remained, not as signs of defeat, but as testimony. Death had been confronted and undone from within. The resurrection was not an ending, but a beginning. Fear lost its authority. The ordinary became empowered. Those once hiding carried a message that could not be contained. The movement spread without weapons, without borders, without force. Jesus did not remain on earth indefinitely. His departure was quiet, but his presence endured. His life reshaped how humanity understood power, love, sacrifice, and eternity. The impact outlived empires. His teachings outlasted kings. His story refused erasure. Centuries passed. Nations rose and fell. Languages changed. Yet his name continued to move hearts and divide history. Not because of what he conquered, but because of what he surrendered. Not because of what he took, but because of what he gave. The story of Jesus remains unfinished, not because it lacks an ending, but because it continues to unfold within those who encounter it. A life that began in obscurity reshaped the meaning of existence itself, offering a kingdom not built on domination, but on love that refuses to die. And the world has never been the same.